Hello everyone, Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central, and this video is the third discussion video for the read along series, and this one was about the cell phones and how they can become addictive to teens primarily. Of course, they can become addictive to anyone. My headset's squeaking, so I'm trying to stop it from squeaking here. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I am going to address the questions that I set up for this particular text. Now, they didn't directly talk about the text. They were about other addictions, etc. We'll have a look at those in a moment. So just remember, if you read the text or you followed along with me during the listening video that I made a couple of weeks ago, just because someone uses their phone a lot, their cell phone a lot, doesn't necessarily mean that they're addicted. There are other indicators that might tell us that that's true, or you might tell yourself if you want to check it out. And one of the things that was mentioned was withdrawal. So if you have a lot of anxiety when you don't have your phone or you're not sure where your phone is, that might be an indication of addiction. So if you have a lot of anxiety, also excessive use. And in that way, I would say if you're using it to the point that you're not able to accomplish other goals or get everything done that you're supposed to in the day, you're neglecting your work or you're neglecting your schoolwork or you're neglecting your home, if you're missing out on something because of the amount of time that you have to spend on the cell phone, then that may be an indication of addiction. So I'm going to share my screen in a moment and just look at the questions specifically that we had set up for watch out, cell phones can be addictive. And yes, they can be. Do you think you're addicted to your cell phone? You can let me know if you like. You might not want to let everybody know that. But if you have comments or questions, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave them below, of course. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on that little notification bell before the subscribe, and that way you will be notified when there are new videos being posted about learning skills and strategies or other read-along lessons that we're covering, etc. And of course, if you like the video, click on the like button, the thumbs up. I hope you do. All right, let's have a look at these questions. I made some notes, so I will be looking down from time to time. Describe some other addictive behaviors that you are aware of in society. What are they and how do they affect individuals and or society? So I would be interested to know what you came up with, but I think there are some obvious ones that almost everyone knows about. For example, alcohol and drugs. These are the ones that we often think about as addictions or people with addiction problems. It's alcohol or drugs. And these can be devastating to the individual, but also to society. So obviously for the individual, there are the health concerns. Things, alcohol or drugs can really disturb your physical health and also your mental health. And so you have to be very careful. Even with prescribed drugs, you have to be careful sometimes that you don't become addicted to them. And again, the addiction is not just, that you like to have a drink, but if you are anxious, if you can't get one, or if you have withdrawal symptoms, these are the kinds of things that a clinician would be able to diagnose. But for yourself, it, I think, is just, are you feeling healthy? Are you feeling well? Often families can take the brunt when there's an addiction such as alcohol or drug addiction, but this can extend to the society at large. Of course, if we think of things like drunk driving, for example, or drug-addled minds making poor decisions or doing things by accident, but also deliberately because they're high or they're drunk or both. So this can affect society, obviously, in a very negative way. And doing things that the individual wouldn't normally do if he or she wasn't high or wasn't drunk. And that can affect society. And even in the workplace, you may be incapacitated, can't go to work some days, so there's a loss of production or a loss of quality if you're showing up, but you're not able to work fully, you're not fully functional. So that's also an effect both on the individual and on society. So you might lose your job, for example, and even if you don't, you may be less productive or you might make mistakes in your job, which could be It could just be annoying to others, but it could also be harmful depending on what your job is. Let's hope you're not a surgeon or an airline pilot. And of course, there are other addictions as well. A couple that came to mind to me when I was thinking about it was gambling and food addiction, because a lot of people don't think of food as an addiction because we all need food. We don't need alcohol. We don't usually need drugs unless we have a heart condition or some other problem. But food, we all need food. So it's not an addiction to eat, but some people have an addiction to food in the sense that they have to continue to eat and eat and eat far more calories than they really require and far more than are healthy for them. And they feel anxious if they're not eating. It's like a withdrawal instead of just the normal stopping and waiting for the next meal. So, and gambling, of course, is a well-known addiction. And again, people used to not take that seriously as an addiction, but it is, or it can be for some people. So they almost must gamble. They can't do without it. That's different than enjoying it infrequently. All right, so I'm sure you know some others. I'm sure I could come up with some others as well, but I think that's good enough for now. That would be enough information to write a very good 1 or 2 paragraph article, or you could even write an essay. Obviously, you can write a whole essay on just one addiction, so you don't even need more than one, and we've mentioned several. Question number 2, do social networking platforms make us more connected and happy, or do they separate us and create modern cliques? Now that's a double-edged sword, or you could maybe think of it as 2 sides of a coin, because I think there are both negative and positive effects of social media platforms or social networking platforms. Things like Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram, and there's so many now. On one hand, it's amazing that we can connect with each other all across the world. I think it's absolutely phenomenal that I'm able to teach people in any country in the world where they have the internet connection or Wi-Fi. So that is amazing to be able to see them, to be able to talk to one another, to be able to share papers and courses and lessons, etc., and pictures, all of that. It's and videos, obviously making a video here now. So all of that is really an amazing thing and a very positive thing. I think we can all learn from one another. So that is really good. We can share thoughts and concepts and hobbies even. You can have fun. On the other hand, when social media becomes an addiction or an affliction, we're looking at the negative side of things. And it has the opposite effects. The vitriol on some social media sites is disappointing. In fact, it can be depressing enough that some people take their own lives. So vitriol is all of the negative comments, all of the nasty comments, all of the personal attacks that are done on some of these I think all of these social media sites at one time or another. And some people are really, truly attacked on them. And it's something that I don't think 99.9% of the people would do in person, but they will do it online because they're relatively anonymous and they don't seem to care in the way they would if they were talking to the person face to face. And that has a lot of negative effects, obviously, on the individual, and I think on society as well, because I think that the whole society is diminished by that kind of behavior and that kind of talk or texting or whatever you want to call it. Don't forget the negative effects of addiction, the time spent scrolling and being fed advertising that's selected just for you because of something you looked at, something you clicked on, something you bought. They track a lot of information when you're on the social media sites, and they're able to direct advertising to your eyeballs, and that's something that the advertisers want. And in a way, that's a negative, I think, for you. You're not seeing everything that you would see if it was more objective. Your world is becoming closer and closer as you do scroll through the social media and look at different pictures and different sites. Some people become so consumed by social media that they neglect their physical friends and family, sometimes when they're in the same room even. So you're in the same room and you're texting back and forth. So that seems a little bit peculiar to me, but I've seen it happen. And So that is, I think, a negative effect of some of these platforms. On a positive note, I believe that the internet and all of its platforms are evolving. They're still in their infancy. They're still relatively young. And I think we will learn and we'll get better at handling these rapid changes and exchanges in time. For now, we just have to keep educating ourselves. You knew I had to go there to talk about education, and monitor our use to ensure it's beneficial at all times, or at least most times, making adjustments when needed. So if you feel yourself being, I wouldn't necessarily say manipulated because you get to choose, but if you kind of feel yourself being drawn in and spending far too much time on a particular social media site or all of the social media sites that you belong to, you do have the control of backing off and closing down some of them even. I've heard several people lately say they're picking one or two and they're closing out their other social media sites that are not beneficial to them and are just, they feel they're wasting far too much time, or they've become too negative, or they've become too focused on something that they're no longer interested in. And so they're going to narrow it down to only those that are important to them, or important to their business, or important to their family and social life, so they can stay in touch that way, especially if they're living around the world. And looking at using it in a positive way, and rejecting the negative side of social networking platforms. So those are my brief and basic thoughts. Maybe you don't think they're too brief. I'm going to stop the share and go back to straight video. But those are my basic thoughts on social media and other addictions. Really, both of those questions could have been handled one at a time, and still have lots and lots to say about each one. And you could write entire essays, but it would be very easy to write a paragraph on either one. If you want to do that, you can certainly do that. Send it in to me to have me look it over, give you suggestions and ideas. There's a small fee for that. Otherwise, you can write it down for yourself. And you can always ask questions and put comments down below, or send me an email. I'll put a link to my website below. And I am very happy to answer all the questions. And I usually make comments on the comments or on the questions that you leave for me. So feel welcome to do that. And of course, try to follow along with the read along series. I might be changing it slightly. I think there's something new coming up shortly. I'm going to look into it and see if we can do it a little bit differently, but I will continue with it for now. And in the meantime, have fun, keep learning. And it's Ron Johnson from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. I almost said series because I'm thinking of the read along series. I'll put a link for that down below as well. All right, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye for now.